in case you missed it. It's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
If you have been yielding on average 15 points a game, and then you, in consecutive weeks, give up 30 a game, is that a 100% increase in how many points you're giving up?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you've doubled it, right?
Yeah.
That's 100%.
It's increased by 100% of the previous total.
Not recommended for any Flonami defense, not recommended for any defense whatsoever, because you can look this up. Even if you have a good offense, it's a lot harder to win consistently giving up 30 points than it is when you're giving up 30 points rather than 15.
What was most disappointing is the offense, as we've laid out, was ready to go last night. They went right down the field twice. And then
during the scripted period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Sean McVay did the same thing and Matthew Stafford did the same thing. It started so promisingly.
Yeah.
This is great. Awesome. They're ready to go. Thursday night hangover, what? And then the Rams just nullified it both times. Not going to work.
You're correct.
Let's just mention real quickly, because we've talked a lot about it today, that KOC confirmed the knee injury before halftime with Christian Darrisaw was cataclysmic. It is season ending. It's an ACL. It's an MCL. He will have surgery, and he will miss the rest of the season. That's kind of the main Vikings headline.
And if you are holding on to this asinine notion that that's on KOC, you need to take a long, hard look at yourself, man. Frustration, I get. Pretending that plays like that are routinely offered up in situations just like the one the Vikings were in. It's again, it's unfortunate. It's not helpful, but that is in no way. I had people texting that it's fireable. What are you smoking now?
That's insane behavior.
It's just insane. I mean, it's not even close. And they did. O'Connell in this, and but believe me, I've not been shy about criticizing KOC when it comes to offensive approach, but there was nothing wrong with exactly what he indeed did. Now, there was some discussion about, but he didn't look like he was doing much on the play, and he was kind of standing around, and it made it too easy. I'm not even that interested in going there either. Because let's be honest, the only reason we've noticed any of it is why. Because a cataclysmic injury took place. So
I would have taken the knee.
Time.
However, the 2.5-yard line is a sneaky, tricky place to take a knee.
It is.
And so we don't know if they didn't have that penalty, which, again, another penalty. The Vikings have had 1 million penalties this season that have killed them. If they just got it at the 5 or wherever it was.
A lot of them pre-snap.
Maybe, yes, exactly, which are preventable. Maybe they do take a knee and they run it out. I would have been fine with that. But
Chavez Ravine looks nice right now.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
I bet it does.
Nice looking ballpark.
You know who did take a long, hard look at themselves?
Does the World Series start tonight?
It does.
You're going to get to it, right? Dodgers and Yankees. Who are you picking? You haven't really given that much thought.
I haven't. No, I mean, I'm excited about the two coasts. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Timberwolves took a long, hard look at themselves.
Okay.
And it helped.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's huge. It just feels like it's going to be just another night in the Western Conference. You know, you just look around. Every team is so good, so capable. But the biggest thing, you know, win or lose tonight, I just really liked our competitive spirit was back. And, you know, we did a lot of things that were more indicative of who we are than we did the other night.
That's how I felt with about 5 minutes left in the game last night, Dan. I actually think I tweeted it out. Win or lose tonight, this is how you're supposed to play. This is how you're supposed to battle. This is how you're supposed to compete. Shouldn't have to say that in game 2 of an 82-game NBA season, but here we are. But they did play better last night after a rough start. They battled back. Julius Randle kept them in it in the first half. 13 of 17 for the game from the floor. He made 5 threes, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. And then Anthony Edwards kind of took things over late, including the game-winning free throws with a couple of seconds left. Ant finishes with 32, and the Wolves get their first victory of the season in SAC, 117-115, the home opener tomorrow against the Toronto Raptors.
It was shaping up as another really downer performance. Not because they weren't kind of sort of in it, but because they were guarding nobody. And then something clicked in, I want to say it was late third quarter.
Yes.
Where
they were down 10.
That's what it was. And they got a little feistier under the hoop playing defense. We saw almost a little sniff of that swarming defense where they're just angry and they're going to make everything difficult.
They're switching everything.
Yeah.
They're in the space.
And then, of course, obviously, they had great offensive help from a number of people. Is that the most threes we've ever taken?
50?
It was over 50.
It's a lot, yeah.
And I think the head coach wants us to take a steady diet of 50s or threes, maybe be closer to that range. To that end, I got a text earlier, Wolves related. I owe you an apology, Dan. This was from Server World's Jake. I was slandering your name earlier this week around the water cooler when you were talking about Randall looking disinterested / lazy out there. I told my co-workers he just doesn't know the system or offense and just looked a bit lost. I said Danny B just doesn't know ball. It appears I was completely wrong. After his 33-point performance yesterday, all I can conclude is he was, in fact, just not trying the opening tilt. You don't take a pill and learn the offense overnight. You, sir, were correct, and dare I say it, lit a fire under our new addition. I sincerely apologize. I was wrong. You were correct. No apology necessary. Just don't doubt the basketball minds that host and co-host this program and produce this show because we know what we're talking about. And Randall did look disinterested. Now, maybe he needed the boost that was given to him pregame. The Anthony Edwards quote's going to live for a long time, and that was, stop worrying about fitting in with us. We'll start worrying about fitting in with you. And maybe that's what he needed to hear.
Yeah.
But I don't care. Forget the scoring. The scoring made it easy. He was just far more engaged, far more active, far more in the fray than he was in the opener. And it's important, though, that he stays that way, whether it's a night that he's as hot as he was in the first half of the ballgame. We are reminded, or were reminded last night, he is a skilled scorer.
Yeah.
He has lots of ways he can score. He has lots of ways that he can help this club. But he has to stay engaged on both ends of the court. And you saw a lot of that. And that's why we felt obligated to not wait 2 games even, but to fire a shot across the bow after the opener.
Kirill Kaprizov had a couple of goals and an assist. It was his 4th straight multi-point game. The Minnesota Wild extended their season-opening point streak to 7 games with a 4-2 victory against Tampa Bay. They actually did trail, but it didn't matter. They end up getting
They were up 1-0, then fell behind 2-1, I believe, and then responded. Which was good because I think everybody's like, oh, okay, let's see now what's going to happen. Is this game going to get out of control? Because I believe they gave up, your guy Flower gave up 2 goals pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And we responded very well. And as you mentioned, Kaprizov, I think Kaprizov's like 3rd or 4th in points scored thus far this year. And another night where I think we were on the power play once. I should say on the penalty kill once. And what's the best? If you have a shaky penalty kill, what's the best way to deal with it?
Stay out of the box.
Yeah, don't just do the late. The Wild for me last year, and we talked about this as the hockey ambassador
at the time.
Too many lazy penalties. Just because you can take a penalty doesn't mean you should. And they've emphasized it, and it has so far made a significant difference.
They are in 2nd place in the Central right now, trailing Winnipeg, who has not lost. Overtime or regulation.
We'll catch them.
Winnipeg has 14 points. Wild have 12. It's a matinee tomorrow, nooner, in Philadelphia. Noon.
So how many games into this road trip are we? 4 or 5 already? Got to be at least 4.
We played 2 at home, so you're going to ask me to do the math?
Well, yeah, that's probably a mistake.
Played 2 at home before we went on there, right?
Yeah, we did.
So I think it's 5 that we've played on the road.
Well, so because I think it's a 7-game road trip. My point is, it's been not even close to the disaster that we were all concerned with. They've actually made some hay and grown on the road.
Dan and 2 men and a junk truck. Want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand. It is our national cash contest. Final keyword of the week is money. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
Don't forget, Lavelle is scheduled, I think. Has he confirmed it with you for the bottom of the hour?
No, I'm just going to call him at 5:30.
Yeah, just call him because he knows. He might be cranky right now.
Well, Allery's is expecting him.
We've both called him out on numerous occasions. How about another Vikings talking point or two as we continue on a pretty rough day, obviously, for Vikings fans regarding the game itself last night and the Darrisaw injury news as well.
Join Corey Cove Tuesday at Chatters in Monticello. It's the return of Coors Light Hockey Night. Watch Minnesota play Pittsburgh. Play trivia for your chance to win a pair of sweet tickets to the Minnesota game on January 19th. All the event info on Hockey Night, thanks to Coors Light. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Let's go ahead and, as the expression goes, lance the boil.
First down and 10 for the Vikings from their own 3. Handoff Aaron Jones up the middle, hit at the line of scrimmage, falls ahead for 2. We dart down to Ben Lieber.
Yeah, guys, unbelievably, that's the first run that we've had in the last 9 plays offensively, and that's including
Minnesota starts their first time out of half who are injured after the 2-minute run.
Darrisaw's down, Nacho holding his left knee.
That's not good.
Christian Darrisaw sitting in the end zone. He's writhing in pain. I mean, I got my binoculars on his face. 71 is in a lot of pain, and they are working on his left knee with 21 seconds to go in the first half.
It's going to be his ankle. He had a guy fall on his back, so it's going to be his ankle more than his knee.
Okay. Yeah, taking a peek at the replay here. Handoff Jones. And, he got...
McCullough.
McCullough got pushed into him from behind. Maybe it's a hyperextension. I don't know. What do you think? Oh, no, it's that ankle. You're right.
Yeah, it was McCullough that kind of got an arm on the running back and whipped himself around.
All right, let's pause. 21 seconds to go in the first half. Game tied at 14. Rams get the ball to begin the second half. But the A-topic, Christian Darrisaw, is down on his back, and the doctors are working on him. We'll be right back on the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network, driven by Polaris.
Unfortunately, it was the knee, officially confirmed by the head coach today in a press conference we carried live at the start of the show. ACL and MCL tears, and surgery will be needed, and Darrisaw is out for the season. I think some people were hoping, including maybe even the head coach after the game, that he was not taken off on a cart. He was helped off the field, but he got off the field to a large extent on his own power. And usually you'd think, well, if it's going to be something really serious, they're not going to let you do that. So there may have been a glimmer of hope that this was, because it's happened. How many times have we watched a play go, that's it, it's done?
Yep.
And then it turns out it is a hyperextension, or it turns out maybe it's just a little bit of, cartilage issues, or maybe it's an MCL sprain, whatever. Worst case scenario here for your favorite football team, and it happened at the worst possible moment, the end of the first half of the ball game. And now the obvious question is, where do the Minnesota Vikings go from here? Do they look internally? Do they look externally? There are names out there of former very good linemen that have come up, including David Bakhtiari from within the division. The question on him is whether he literally has anything left. My assumption is that their job, to me, the job of any good general manager is to vet everything and not dismiss anything until you come to the conclusion there's no there. And even though it sounds cool to talk about a big name, he wouldn't even pass the physical. Bakhtiari, I don't even know. I don't think Bakhtiari showed up at any camp this year. I don't think he was invited to any camp.
I don't think so either.
And he, I believe, is on record as saying, I think I still got something left. So is he honest? Or is that just hope? Is he selling hope in this situation? I don't know. But that's going to be, on the offensive side, one of the bigger goals. And I want to play real quickly another soundbite, or I should say talking point, related to the offense that I don't think should be underrated simply because the defense is suddenly giving up twice as many points as it was previously. Long, extended drives for the second consecutive week, including, though, some pretty good big plays as well. It was almost the worst of all worlds. Let's talk about what I classify as the talking point related to, after a very promising start, an utter and perplexing offensive fizzle.
First and goal, handoff. Jones trying to get the left edge. That didn't work. And that's going to be a loss of 3 yards. Wonderful open field tackle by Darius Williams. Second and goal from the 8th, third quarter. Game tied at 14. Handoff. Aaron Jones, left side, plows his way to the 5, falls ahead to the 4. That'll be a gain of 3. So it is third and goal for the Vikings. Third and goal from the 5. Darnold. He takes the snap out of the shotgun, 4-man rush. Darnold to the end zone, incomplete. And
no flag?
No flag. Wow. Snap spot. Reichert is good. Jefferson out to the left on first down, handoff Aaron. Bit of a hole up front, but quickly is closed at the 20-yard line. Darnold shotgun, Addison and Jefferson left. It's a gun run to Jones. They try to get sneaky between the hash marks. He's hit at the 17 and stopped at the 16. Gain of 2, maybe 3. Darnold out of the shotgun. Jones to his left on third down. Darnold back to pass, steps up. He's going to run. No, he sidearms it to Naylor, who dropped it at the 7-yard line. Now, a couple of things there, Pete. Darnold could have run for the first down. It would have been a cinch.
Absolutely.
But he did the right thing because Naylor was open and Jalen dropped it. Next spot. Will Reichert nails it per usual. Jefferson is the receiver right as Darnold goes back to pass, bounces around, tries to spin away from the pressure, way back in Vikings territory, and he is sacked. That's going to be a loss of about 18 yards on the sack. I believe it was Michael Hoyt in his 4th year from Brown. Wow, what a major loss. It's now 3rd and 23.
I think it was, as it turns out, the record will show it was a 13-yard sack. That was on a drive in which the Vikings had advanced to the Rams 43. This was later in the game, and they ended up having to punt on this occasion. They got nothing there. The 2 previous series you heard had, in both cases, the Vikings had to settle for field goals after they had been, obviously, in the opening stanza, going right down the field for touchdowns. And field goals are not illegal. It's okay to get 3 points here and there. But given how much difficulty the defense was having stopping anything, as it's happening, I'm sensing, well, we're going to remember this because you're not really giving yourself the best chance to win the ball game. I'm not here to put all of that on Sam Darnold. You heard on the second field goal drive, he's thrown a nice pass on the run that should have been for a first down. Was that Naylor? And Naylor dropped it.
Yeah.
And he might have scored on that play. Regardless, it was definitely going to be a first down. You can't put that on Darnold. Although I think overall, when you go from scoring touchdowns to second half we're settling for field goals, some of it you have to put on him. I think whether it's decision making, the big sack he gave up, and I think he also absorbed a big one late in the first half too. A lot of people have said to me, Darnold was great or Darnold was fine. I would say Darnold was okay after the very good start. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I judge on points, on touchdown drives in a game where the other team is inching towards 30. To a certain extent, you have to match that. And at key points, I don't think this offense was doing any of that. So it was you could sort of see it. The handwriting on the wall. We're still in good shape in the game. There's still plenty of time to come back. But if they're scoring, I can do this math. If they're scoring 7 and you're scoring 3, well, that's going to be a problem. You're not going to catch up. You're not going to catch them, right? If that keeps happening. And that's what kept happening. They kept getting touchdowns. And after our good start, too, we had to start settling for field goals. I don't think the offensive play calling was great. I don't think the execution was necessarily great. I do think the head coach tried to stay with the running game a decent amount, although you heard on that play-by-play call off of, I think, that first series, how long it had been that the Vikings had gone without a running play. He tried it again in the second half. Running game was not as effective. And it was clearly not as effective as the Rams running game. Rams had everything going again. The Lions a week ago had everything going again. And I get you got a good quarterback, an accomplished pro, experienced. They got some receivers back, but I think you have to perform better defensively, and I think it was almost an obligation that you perform better offensively. We didn't give up the ball, which is a good thing, but you had to score. You had to sustain some stuff in the second half, and for various reasons, we did not. We'll get Lavelle's reaction to it. If you have questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Are we going the distance today?
We are.
We're going all the way until 6:30. No such thing as summer hours today. Stay tuned.
Join Nordo tomorrow, AT&T Store, West St. Paul. You can drop in from noon to 2. It's your chance to win a KFAN swag pack every 15 minutes. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar. Go see Nordo tomorrow.
Questions for Lavelle. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, 64686. It's a rare Friday show where it's the day after a Vikings game. In this case, a loss, 30-20, at the hands of the Los Angeles Rams of Anaheim. Lavelle is with us, as is usually the case on Fridays. He's brought to us by Allery's Bar in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuffles. Are you still in a hospital bed?
No, I'm no longer. I'm at home trying to get my brother to stop talking when I'm doing a radio show. No, I'm out. It was an outpatient procedure on Tuesday.
What? Yeah, but I mean, there's no privacy on this program, as you know. So, what was the surgery all about? What did you get repaired?
I know there is no privacy on the station. No, just over 2 years ago. Oh, well, remember the Vikings game in Buffalo where Justin Jefferson made that ridiculous catch and Josh Allen fumbled the ball, his own one, and the Vikings recovered? Remember that crazy game? I do. How can you not? Yeah, I was covering that game, and afterwards we had the Uber ride. The ride to the airport was like a mile and a half away from the stadium, and we had to hoof it. It was like me, Andrew Collier, Tom Schreier, some other guys, and I was just cooked. It was like I can't move fast. I'm struggling here, Yeah. I think Schreier had to grab my bag for me, so I said something's wrong. So then I went to the doctor, and he put the stethoscope on me. 3 seconds, he's like, "I don't like your heartbeat," and so I got diagnosed with AFib. So I had a procedure a year and a half ago, which is called a cardioversion, which actually stopped the heart for 2 seconds and restarted. And that did the trick, but usually once you do get to that point, they want you to have an ablation. And so that's what I had on Tuesday.
Yes, I've heard of those. Yeah.
Where they go and zap the parts of the heart that's tricking the heart and the beating fast. So it was in and out. I got there at 9 a.m. and I got out by about 7. It was a little bit of a delay, but I'm doing well. I can't lift anything over 10 pounds for a week.
I can't lift anything over 10 pounds.
I don't want to get too graphic,
right?
but they're going through the groin.
Well, that's good though, because it's not as invasive. I mean, it can be. Right. I mean, maybe a little distracting for the person doing the procedure in your case, but
I know. The thing was that I was being warned because I've talked to so many people who had this. They're like, "Go ahead, do it. It's not that difficult to go through. You only have one heart, blah blah blah."
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, "The one thing you have to do, they shave you down there before you do a procedure." I'm like, "What?" So the night before, I'm in the shower shaving myself just to avoid someone coming at me with a razor. But sure enough, they still wanted to be thorough, so they went in and did a once-over to make sure I didn't miss anything before they did the procedure. Yesterday, I actually had a post-op, and they removed the sutures, and that was uncomfortable for about a half an hour afterward. But you got through it, and it's worthwhile. My blood pressure's down.
There you go.
When doctor's pleased, if the doctor's pleased, then I'm pleased.
Yeah, for sure.
The overriding question is fat ass Lavelle finally going to lose some weight, and that's
that's a challenge, but it's worth trying. I think it's good to see though you haven't ignored any of this stuff, the medical stuff. You didn't ignore it. You try to get it taken care of. I've definitely heard of that procedure before. Do they put you under, or are you just sedated lightly, or what's the approach?
Yeah, they put you under.
They do put you under.
So yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, they put you under, which is good because they actually put a breathing tube down your throat. And so that's something, you don't want to have to endure during the middle of a procedure. So, yeah, they knocked me out completely.
Yeah.
And the procedure took about 3 hours, and then you're in a recovery room for about 2 to 3 hours after that. And then they discharge you.
Interesting. So when, you were trying to be proactive on the shaving part, and they apparently said, well, you might have missed a couple of spots. We're going to be a little bit more thorough. Any nicks? I mean, later did you go, oh, man, that person was not very careful or very effective? Do you have any gouges that you are trying to get healed now?
I just want to say for the record, I'm wishing that today was Monday when we had the iHeartRadio meltdown and people couldn't hear some of these answers because we were playing Fox Sports Radio. But go ahead.
Well, I had this vision, the night before of someone coming at me with a disposable razor, which wasn't pleasant for me.
No.
But in this case, they actually had hair clippers. They had electric hair clippers and just kind of went through and said, all right, you're good to go. And let's make the magic happen. I was like, all right, knock me out, get this over with.
That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Well, I'm glad that is all worked. It's now you just got to try to. So for you, is the key to this, you think, more kind of controlled exercise, or is it no? I gotta try to moderate how much I eat. Maybe not. Maybe it's portions level. Maybe it's just more. Is that the issue, or how are you going to try to get through that?
I think it's going to be holistic. I think it's going to be a combination of exercise and moderation. So, and I've done it before. I've sat there to stay fair with you after losing 27
That's
pounds.
true. You're right.
I've done it before. So, we just got to get on a plan and stick with it. So, that's my challenge. So, and it's, as soon as I can get the ability to lift things again, because I can't lift anything over 10 pounds for a while, then, I gotta plot a plan. All right, actually I can start plotting a plan now for when I can start moving stuff around and get going, man. So you only have one heart,
There's no question. You don't want to mess around. You don't want to have to go down the transplant road, right? I mean, it's been very effective for a lot of people, but that's pretty complicated. You don't want to go too far down there,
Well, I'm a sleep apnea person, so I've had sleep apnea for over 20-something years, and a lot of times the sleep apnea ends up being AFib.
Yeah, that's true. They are often related. Yeah, well, I'm glad you had that taken care of. So were you able to watch Vikings, Rams, and what, if you were, what stood out to you?
No, well, what stood out was that I'm glad I had a procedure on Tuesday, or my heart would have been racing watching some of the stuff that was going on in L.A. I'm trying to figure out if these are just 2 bad weeks by the defense, or that Cashman means that much to the defense, or have teams found, is this like the chess and checkers move where teams have found a way to adjust to B-Flow, and B-Flow now has to adjust back. Lack of pressure on Stafford, I thought was an issue. The Rams offense looks totally different when Nakua and Kupp are in, definitely, because they weren't playing when the Bears beat them at Soldier Field. I watched that entire game. I'm trying to figure out why the Vikings couldn't run the ball effectively, because they only scored 20 points, if I'm not mistaken. So that's baffling to me as well. It looks like, and Nordo brought this up, this morning about KOC looks great when the scripted plays are in play. But once the scripted plays run out, then because I think the Vikings have one of the better opening drive or first quarter scoring records in the league in terms of points. So what's happening after that? Are these just a bunch of adjustments that are makeable? Is this an inevitable? I don't want to say relapse, or is this an inevitable kind of step back here after such a hot start? Where is this headed? And the only thing is, the weird thing is that a week ago, we were looking at a 5-day span in which the Vikings could have been 7-0, but now they're 5-2. And so the mini bye is a great time for self-scouting, self-evaluation, and kind of figure out what needs to be done differently.
Yeah, they do have a little bit of time to play with here. You're not going to replace. I mean, there's 2 issues. Obviously, there's the defense. There is the offense's inability to finish out drives, and you could say that even was an issue last week as well after a really good start, and actually they had a good stretch late as well in that game against the Lions. But you're not going to replace a left tackle of Darrisaw's vintage for sure. They're just not available. I don't know if there's any, decent tackles that teams that are close to being eliminated might be willing to dangle, and then you're back to, this is a team without a lot of draft choice assets too. And how far do you want to go? It's interesting because I got a few texts from people again today basically saying, look, who are we kidding? The Vikings should become sellers at the deadline and should certainly not give up much of anything. And I'm saying to myself, I don't think you understand how this thing works. I mean, if you're 5-2, no matter what is ailing you right now, you do play to win the game. I mean, I saw your guy Florio before the Rams game had an item about, seemingly hinting that the Rams were making a mistake playing. Who was the receiver who was out?
Puka Nacua.
Yeah, well, in this case, he was talking about Cooper Kupp.
Okay, right.
And basically the premise was, if you play him and he gets hurt at all, you have no chance to trade him at all. And I'm thinking, the teams rightly don't think that way. Whether they're Super Bowl, talent level or not, it's too early in a season. They're competitive. They're not going to give up the season. The division is thin. If they win the game, they're even with the 49ers. They're getting healthier. And I think people have to, we live in this fantasy world almost where it's like, either we're good enough to win a Super Bowl or we might as well be rebuilding from scratch. That's not how it tends to work in the real world. It doesn't. It's not how, I don't even think that's how smart businesses work. You have players who don't want to think that way. You have coaches who don't want to think that way. And I think it becomes too easy to say, gotta sell. Let's just sell everything and start over.
You pull that at 7 weeks into the season, or 8 weeks, whatever it is. What does that say to the locker room? That's just a bad signal in the sense of all those guys who are trying to row the boat in the same direction. Sorry to use a PJ Fleck term, but, you're going to kill morale. And you're going to get guys making business decisions thinking, okay, we're not serious about winning. I got to put numbers up. I got to start playing for myself instead of playing for my teammates. Hey, I'm going to be a free agent. I'm not going to stick my nose in here and possibly get injured. You're setting yourself up for destroying the locker room if you have that type of mindset. You play to win. In the NFL, you can get it hot, especially in a 17-game season. You enter the last couple weeks. You got 8 wins going in the last 2 weeks of the season. You're in a playoff picture. So the Vikings have 5 wins. So if they got 5 wins with 10 games left, right? So they could technically go 4-6 over the last 10, have 9 wins, and possibly make the playoffs. So you do all you can to win until you can't qualify for the postseason. It's because the signal it sends, not just to the people in the locker room, but also the fan base, But it's amazing. Football's a crazy game because you got 6 days in between games to all this rampant speculation and overreaction and think about how bad things could be, doom and gloom. You start thinking about trades. Look how the Stafford trade to the Vikings got out of control during the week. That's the crazy thing about the NFL. It makes it interesting. It's great talk. It's great entertainment. But man, you do not throw in the towel week 8.
No, I certainly. I mean, you don't. And I would argue whether you're in the Viking situation or even what the Rams situation was, because I look at what they saw from the Rams last night, and I'm going, they're not awful. They're really not. No. They've been hurt. They've been a hell of a lot more hurt than we have. And so again, it's a competitive endeavor. And there's too many people around the water cooler who basically live in that sort of, like I said, that sort of world of, well, either going for it, or if you're really not capable of it, you might as well just start over, leaving aside, and that dismisses what that really means and how cool it sounds to quote unquote start over and, trade off all your assets and get all these draft choices. But it rarely works out that way. Generally, most teams are going to take more of a middle ground, even if it means it's unlikely that they're going to end up in the Super Bowl, because you're in it to compete. And as you say, it's the wrong message to convey, I think, for most organizations, to go. The Rams are not nearly, for me, bad enough where you go, who they can, let's just start, trading everything away. Stafford's still too good a quarterback, and I think, as they were talking about on the broadcast last night, I think he could probably, he looks like he's in better shape. He's lost a little bit of that doughiness that he used to have. And so I think he's actually in better shape than he was probably 5-10 years ago.
No, and that Rams roster's too good just to give up on it. And it only works when your roster's terrible. And trust me, being a Bears fan, the Bears were like that 3-4 years ago when they decided to, let's trade away what we have and start to reload. And, and it's very hard to get in a situation where you have the first overall pick in consecutive seasons, but the Bears somehow achieved that and were able to get a favorable trade.
Yeah.
To get the number one pick where the Carolina Panthers got drafted Bryce Young. And the Panthers still owe the Bears a second-round pick next year. It's part of that deal. It's just hard. It's always cool. It's like, oh, yeah, let's just tank. Let's just throw in the towel. Let's just trade and get all these assets back. You don't know how many things have to go right for that strategy to work out. And when you have a chance to win, you should be looking to push instead of looking to fall back. And we have a local baseball team that had opportunity to push, and they did not push. Right. And we saw how that turned out. So let's just remember that. When you have a good roster, take advantage of it. The Rams have a good roster. McVay's not going to back down. He has Stafford. How many more times he's going to have a chance to win with Stafford? They got two quality receivers. They got a good running back. And defense is functional, and no one's running away with their division. So you put the pedal to the metal and go as hard as you can.
Are you prepared to spend a lot more time writing about hockey than you have in the past? Because your Wild Club, I'm not saying they're going to stay this hot, but they are off to a very encouraging start. The goaltending has stabilized. Team is playing a more disciplined style of hockey that includes far fewer penalties to this point. You might have to be over at the X a little bit more than you're accustomed to.
I actually went to the X more than I went to Target Center last year. One reason is because I live right down Highway 52 from the X, which is an easy jaunt. But I've always enjoyed going over there and watching puck. Historical background, when I was a sports editor of the University of Illinois Chicago newspaper, I covered the college hockey team. That's when USC did have a hockey team and played in the CCHA, and Val Belmonte was the head coach. So my history covering hockey goes back to college. So I'm not saying I'm a great puckhead or a great hockey mind, but, I have some familiarity covering the sport. The Wild start's been impressive. I actually tweeted something out last night. I got back answers all over the board. I was like, who's had the most impressive start? And I went Kaprizov, and I went Faber, and I went Gus Bus, and I went Boldy, and people started adding Rossi and some other people. And so many people have had a hand in this beginning here. And here's the funny part, Dan. What was one of the issues with the Wild coming into the season? Had they fixed the power play? Mm-hmm. We don't know if they fixed the power play yet because they don't commit penalties.
That's it. Well, you mean the penalty kill in their case, their ability to penalty.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
penalty kill.
Exactly. Yeah. You're 100% right. It's very true. That's the beauty of it.
And the power play, I misspoke. The power play, I believe, is fifth in the league right now,
which was a big improvement over because that was also they had both specialties were a problem last year, the power play and their ability to kill penalties.
I wrote this around the opener. I said I think the Wild are a playoff team, and it's going to be because guys take another step. And I said, what if Rossi improves this year as much as he improved last year? Then he's an 80-point scorer, and I think he's on pace to score 80. I don't know if Kaprizov is only going to be able to score 13 points every 7 games for the remainder of the season, but he's off to a fast start. Boldy, I was told, came into camp in terrific condition, and he's gone off to a great start. But the big thing here is Gustafsson. And I think Russo brought it up on your show about Gus just being 26 and Gustafsson possibly being dealt, during the off season, possibly in the Patrick Laine trade. I actually got a chuckle because you said Garen broke on your show that Laine had the Wild on the no trade list, and Garen had just told me that 45 minutes before his appearance with you because I had him on the stage at the State Fair. But unfortunately, the Star Tribune booth does not have a radio connection.
No.
So you ended up being able to blast that out to the masses. But now Gus is playing, and all these guys who had a chance to trade for him are like, man, maybe we should have traded for Gustafson. So I don't know what this means for Wallstad. It looks like he's going to just have to simmer at Iowa for a while instead of this three-headed monster they were talking about, because you got to ride the Gus bus.
Yeah, sure.
To me, they get the young guys, the young 20-something guys, like Bodie and Rossi and Faber continue to develop, which is crazy to think because it seems like he's already an excellent defenseman. I think those guys are going to be the reasons why they make the postseason.
On that note, good luck in your recuperation situation, and we hopefully will see you in studio sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. That is Lavelle E. Neal III, brought to you by Allery's Bar, downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles. We've got some maybe a little more Vikings talking point stuff to get to. In addition, we'll lay out a rather cluttered sports weekend in Los Angeles, California. All of that before we wrap things up at 6:30, perhaps a text or two as well. Dateline, Los Angeles, California, where you just were, and where, of course, many Vikings fans just were, and many media jackals, at least one of whom we talked to earlier on this show today, were yesterday. I mean, look at the City of Angels has quite a weekend.
Yeah.
Lakers take the court at Crypto.com Arena. I still miss the fabulous Forum.
I bet.
Hasn't been imploded, by the way.
They do a lot of concerts there.
That's at 7 o'clock Los Angeles time. Lakers back in action. 2 hours after the first pitch between the Yankees and Dodgers at Dodgers Stadium, Chavez Ravine, not that far away. An hour after tip-off at Crypto.com Arena, USC and Rutgers will kick off less than 3 miles away at the L.A. Memorial Coliseum on the other end of town in Inglewood. Look what else we got going on. Jeff Lynne's ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, will take the stage at the Kia Forum at 8 p.m.
There's your Forum right there.
You're right. Just steps away, Roosevelt and Garfield High School schools will face off in the 89th East LA Classic at SoFi Stadium, ladies and gentlemen. And if that's not enough, David Gilmour will perform at the Intuit Dome, a block south of SoFi, at the same time. That's quite the busy, well, I would say weekend.
Night.
These are all tonight.
Yeah.
Can't make that up.
You know what that's good preparation for?
What's that?
2028 Olympics. They're going to be in Los Angeles, remember?
Oh, I thought you meant maybe we still could get them. No, it's too late. That's already been granted.
No, that's already been Los Angeles. They're apparently finally getting more trains out there. That's the plan.
More choo-choos?
To try to get the people moving. Because the Olympics out there is going to be an interesting one, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was successful. Of course, that was a long time ago in 84.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 84?
It was.
Yeah, 84. Yeah, I remember being out there. It was... My recollection, though, was that there weren't like incredible horror stories. I think it was pretty well. Was that Peter Uberoff became the guy?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think he was the main organizer, and he was the first guy I think who figured out we can make a lot of money,
tons, if
we do these sorts of endorsements where we lock in with certain companies and so forth. And I think that's many decades later that remains something of a model that others have stolen from. One more quick Vikings talking point today. I call it the Rams 3rd and 4. I'll explain after we listen.
If you're Brian Flores, I think right now you try to dial up your best pressure, right? We've seen it all night. If you let Stafford and give him time, he's gonna find a way. If you let him extend plays, he's finding a way. So get after him the best that you can, the best that you've got, put him out there, and give me the best blitz you've got.
Right.
This is it right here. Right. If you don't get him the punt right here, we only have one timeout left.
Yep.
Doesn't look good.
3:26 to go in the game. Rams 2 of 7 on third down. Here is the newest, biggest play of the 7th game of the season for the Minnesota Vikings. 3rd and 9. The Rams are backed up to their 20. Matthew Stafford out of the shotgun. Puka Nacua goes in motion to the left. Stafford looks that way. Now he's going to fire to the left side. Caught Cooper Kupp at the 35, first down. And I have absolutely no idea what Stephon Gilmore was doing on that play. A 28-yard hit right there.
I don't know.
Are you kidding me?
He should have cut. He could have cut underneath that.
Wow.
And intercepted that football.
Yeah.
It's not as if he just overran him. He does a speed turn, and then instead of finding the receiver, he's looking at the quarterback.
I just stood there.
And just let Cooper Kupp.
Timeout. Minnesota, their third and final for the half.
Yeah.
30-second timeout.
Come up right before him. So, our corners have struggled mightily tonight.
Remember, a week ago, we faced at home a 3rd and 4 late in the ball game. We're still leading at this point. But we need to convert to largely eliminate much chance for the Lions to come back. I don't remember what their timeout situation was at that point, but they were going to have to use them if we got another first down. We had a 3rd and 4. And that was the pass that Darnold threw, like, I think PA described it as like 200 miles per hour.
Yep.
We had 2 receivers in the same spot. Only one of them, JJ, was supposed to be there.
Addison was not.
Addison was not. And it was an incomplete pass. Therefore, the Lions get the ball back with plenty of time, only needing 3, right? So last night, that play we just played back for you was the Rams' 3rd and 4. And in their case, it was longer. It was 3rd down and 9. I fully expected them to run. To their credit, they got aggressive, and they got the first down. Now, they didn't ultimately prevent the Vikings from getting the ball back. We know all that. We know how that ended with the missed face mask penalty. But it allowed them to take more time off the clock, not as much as they should have, because they had their own faux pas when Kupp's foot ended up going out of bounds when he was trying to stay in bounds along the left sidelines. But it took effectively another 2.5 to 3 minutes off the clock, forced the Vikings to use their remaining timeouts. 2-minute warning also in the rearview mirror. So even if the Vikings get the face mask penalty, there's still very little time, well, probably enough time, but they're still basically at their own, where have they been? Like their own 18-yard line with a long way to go. And to me, that's part of how you evaluate a good offensive night for a team collectively and for a quarterback individually. Making that play that vastly, dramatically reduced the margin for error and chance for the opposing team to come back. Remember, unlike the Lions a week ago, who only needed a field goal to win it, Vikings needed a touchdown and a successful 2-point conversion to tie it.
The play that everybody on the field in the stadium and watching knows is the play. What do you do when that play comes up? And that's what. And Pete's right. That should have been picked off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I thought like he lost sight of it or something.
They did a good job of confusing the 3 Vikings secondary members about who was going where. I think they created enough chaos there with whatever motion that they used. And the Vikings were just flummoxed by it. And Gilmore, it wasn't like it was a great throw or a dagger or anything like that. Obviously, it was a good throw and a good play design. But when I watched the replay, I thought, wow, he was right there to pick that off if he knew what city he was in.
Yeah, that's all true. I think it again sort of speaks to the possibility that we're going to have to start considering that as much as we've flexed about our ability defensively to confuse both quarterbacks and receivers with the number of people we have at the line of scrimmage, making it more difficult for them to read their keys and to know exactly what they should do. I think we're seeing a little bit of, as you said, with overloading one side of the field, we're having some trouble with the receivers. Who do I have? Do I have this guy? Do I have Kupp? which direction am I supposed to go? I think, and it is. I mean, a season, as Sean Salisbury said, it is kind of a chess match. It does go back and forth, and there's time to try to counter if indeed this is just about approach and scheme. In some cases, I think it also has to be about execution. But you definitely heard it from the locker room after the game that the Vikings defense has lost some of its swagger. And that's different. I mean, there was almost starting to build a bit of an intimidation, I think, advantage that the Vikings seem to have where teams' offenses a little bit defeated before the game began because of all the rhetoric, after each game about, I don't know what city I'm in. I don't know what they're doing here. This doesn't make any sense. We haven't really seen anything like that. Well, it certainly does not look as confusing and complicated. And again, maybe that's all based on having big-time quarterback play. Goff has become a big-time quarterback. Stafford has been a Super Bowl winning quarterback as well. So we don't see, I don't think, moving forward in the short run, a lot of those quarterbacks. But you want to make it about more than just taking advantage of now the soft part of the schedule. You want to resolve some of those issues so that you can get a little of that bravado back. Because you can't have, as we said much, much earlier in this show, you can't have a lot of bravado when you're routinely giving up drives of 70 yards, 4 times, 70 yards each. Rams touchdown drives. And against the Lions, drives of 69, 83, 72, and 70. Not to mention the 44 that allowed them to set up the game-winning field goal. Bravado's gone. It doesn't mean you can't get it back, but it means that you are not walking in with a little bit of that built-in advantage that I almost felt like we were starting to have, which is teams are maybe a bit intimidated about what we're going to do, including Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Including your guy, Aaron Rodgers. One more pause, no grand in your hand this hour?
Correct.
And then we'll come back, wrap up the show, remind you what I have coming up on a lengthy edition of Sunday sermons and perhaps a couple of final phone calls, or I should say texts.
Fan.
You can join the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, Hy-Vee and Egan this coming Tuesday, October 29th. Stop by from 4 to 5 p.m. to meet PA and Vikings defensive back Cam Bynum. It's all thanks to Hy-Vee and Pepsi, plus a live Q&A event to follow. All the details at KFAN.com, keyword calendar. Show wrap is always brought to you by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper show wrap.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, his nickname was Dragon. Then his nickname, as he ascended the college football achievement ladder, or I should say college basketball achievement ladder as a coach, he became the General. Robert Montgomery Knight would have been 84 years old today. I'm reminded by a couple of individuals. There's a lot of very entertaining videos attempting to capture some of the highs and some of the unmistakable lows of Robert Montgomery Knight, his career, an individual that I had the chance to get to know working for what he affectionately referred to as the Indiana Daily Dissident, the student newspaper at IU. I sensed, Gaardsy, a discomfort for you as we discussed Lavelle Neal III's pubic region.
Again.
Well,
because this has come up from time to time.
It's a major procedure.
Yeah.
We can't run from it.
And we
don't want to.
We could jog from it.
We could, but I don't think we want to discourage people from taking care of themselves because there are heart issues, AFib issues for lots of people. Then they don't get themselves checked. They don't go through procedures that he did, and that he is now on the recovery trail. He reminded us that when they do some of this procedure work, they go through the groin. And that meant that he was informed that they would be shaving him for the procedure, and he didn't like that, so he tried to take care of that the night before in the shower.
Get ahead of it.
Speaking of jarring imagery.
Well,
but then he was reminded that
they have people for that.
Not going to work. We're going to need to clean this thing up just a little bit.
Well, and if you recall the background of the last time we talked about said region, what Lavelle said.
A lot of stuff going on down there.
There's a lot going on down there. I believe was the direct quote.
I think you're right, actually.
So it's quite the follow-up.
Yeah.
And what a way to end the Friday. I did not, as Mandela guy tweeted out, I did not have that on the bingo card.
No.
He said he had it on the bingo card, and now he finally has bingo.
Sean Salisbury joined us today. I heartily recommend you podcast between 3:30 and we took him into the 4 o'clock hour because he was on fire today on a number of subjects regarding the Vikings loss to the Rams. Salisbury between 3:30 and about 4:05 or so. Very good stuff also from Ben Gessling, who was in Los Angeles. He filed a live report now that he has returned. That was between 4:30 and 5. Top 5 at 5 I thought was exemplary. And then Lavelle joined us at about 5:30. Door is a little open earlier in the week because there's no Viking game not another Vikings game to discuss on Sunday. So maybe we hit a couple of A-section controversial subjects that I've been sort of embargoing until we had a good opportunity to give it a minute or two. In addition, I know Gaardsy's working hard to see if we can get Tom Crean back on the show early in the week. He's been great, as he was during the playoffs, talking about the Timberwolves approach, and now that they make the big trade, very curious to get his view on how it changes the way the team goes about its business. How does it go about getting the best out of what Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo offer?
We should also have Mike Conley on next week.
Oh, is it going to be that next week?
Yes,
okay.
He will be on next week, either Monday or Wednesday.
Okay.
We're still working on it.
That sounds good. Sunday sermons will be 2 hours because there's no Viking game Sunday. I'm sure after it's your return for you of Go for Football Sunday.
Been a while.
And it has been a while. You will review the crucial Maryland game. They throw early and often, correct?
They've thrown it 50-plus times the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
They sling it. They've got 2 good wide receivers and a pretty good quarterback.
And if my Hoosiers take care of business, it might come up during Sunday sermons, too, because they've become one of the great national stories, not to mention Big Ten stories. They're going to try to remain undefeated, hosting Washington, game day coming to to Bloomington, and Lee Corso, former IU coach when I was there, returning to Bloomington also. So the plan the rest of the night is what? Well, it's Vikings Rewind. That's coming up next. That might be painful for some of you, but it's kind of a rite of passage.
Good luck.
Then it's going to be Wild Weekly on the Fan. Let's also remind you that Gopher men's hockey can be heard on Twin Cities News Talk 11:30. Is that correct?
They're up on St. Thomas right now, 3-1.
Oh.
About 5 minutes into the second period.
Has St. Thomas won a football game yet this year?
I don't know.
Oh.
I think they have, but I don't know.
I don't think either one of us gives them the proper... According to the Tommy people who text us, they're not happy with our lack of coverage.
They've got plenty of allies in the local media.
They most assuredly, yes, they do. Starting with John Athletic, but not ending there.
That's true.
By any stretch of the imagination. So we hope that you, and trust that you'll have a wonderful weekend. I know it's going to be hard not to wallow in what happened to the Purple, but you got to move on with the rest of your life. Wolves home opener, is that Saturday?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, you're going.
I think so.
You wouldn't miss it.
It's a big game.
It's a huge game. They're all big in the National Basketball Association. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you Sunday morning at 9.